So the Maimon continues now, having said that the difference between the revelation of Pnimius HaTorah now and Pnimius HaTorah that Mashiach will reveal Lasid Lavai is akin to Bina versus Chochmah, Shmiya versus Re'iyah. In Chochmah itself, he identified the two levels, manifested Chochmah and then the essence of Chochmah. So therefore, Lasid Lavai is the splitting of the river, the Bekiyas Hanor, which the river is Bina, Machshava, Bina, Shmiya, and that all opens up in order to experience Alikus on the level of Chochmah, and not just the level of Chochmah itself, but Etzem HaChochmah. So now continuing that, V'hina Yedua, and he also said, just to review the last point of the Maimon, that's also in the Amshach of the Tipa, which is the father Chochmah. In the Tipa itself is not just everything there present in the, as it were, is set a concentrated or seminal, literally, form. More than that, there's a Koyach Ruchni that the Tipa conveys. That's the Etzem of the Tipa, and that's Lasid Lavai, which is all about Nisuyin, the union of Eden and the Eibishter, as opposed to Matan Torah, which was the Erusin, the betrothal, the Kedushin, because now it's the Yichud Pnimi, the essential bond, and the Atzmis Dika bond, and hence, as he identifies the level, Pnimi is Atik, the way it is in its place, which means Etzem HaChochmah, the Etzem HaVolikus, and therefore, when they cross the river, the pasuk says, "Sham nismecha boy." Then, or there, we will rejoice in Him. No name of Hashem is identified, but simply Him, because we're talking here boy batzmosay. Continuing, Vini Yedua. With respect to the fact that the Gula Hasidah is described as similar to the days you went out of Mitzrayim, so that's explained to mean, as we learned earlier, Shekol HaGilum Delasid, all of the future revelations, Hischilu Kvar, B'Shas Yitzias Mitzrayim. They began already by Yitzias Mitzrayim. So the Geulim Lasid Lavai complete the revelations that began then. Therefore, that even though by Yitzias Mitzrayim it wasn't the splitting of the river, but rather the ocean, the sea, nonetheless, since that sets in motion and began the final redemption as well, therefore, so in a concealed, not obvious way, there was also the splitting of the river. Like it says in Mechilta Medrash, at the time when the Yidden crossed the sea, so all the waters in the world split. The time and the reason is because the Ishtalshalos is interrelated, all the levels are connected, and if a change happens in one level, so quite literally there's a chain reaction that affects all the other levels as well. And as we pointed out in the few shiurim ago, Ishtalshalos is Hashem's expression at the end of the day, notwithstanding the multi-layers and levels, it's all the expression of the Eibishter. The Eibishter is one. And therefore, all of Ishtalshalos is interrelated and interconnected. So therefore, when there is a change, a chidush, as it were, that happens in one level, then there's this chain effect, a ripple effect that happens throughout Ishtalshalos. As he goes on to say, that's what's meant by a chain, why does the Lashon of Ishtalshalus is already found, I think, already in Kabbalah. So why use, it's all metaphoric language, why use this chain, the notion of a chain? It's Milashon Shalshel is a chain, Shegam Tabas HaTachtoina, the lowest link, Yesh L'Shayches and Tabas HaYosel Yoina, is linked, link by link, and has a connection to the very upper link. And therefore, if there's a change at the lowest level, a movement there, this causes a change in the entire divine system, even including the loftiest level. As you see, Begashmias, if you move one of the links, then all of the links are affected. Moving, therefore, so when this is a tremendous movement, this opening, hasaras hahelem, a movement of concealment that happens on one level, the lowest level, relatively speaking, which is the ocean, which is Malchus. As we explained, the word of Hashem, like an ocean, is a still body of water that conceals what's inside. So to a word conceals, it's a container, literally. It's a teva. Teva means a container, it also means a word. So it contains that which is in it. But when a change happens there, an opening happens there, this causes also a chain, the result, a chain effect, that there's a movement of the highest concealment as well, which is the concealment of Bina relative to Chachma. On a subtle level, that opens up as well. In Aveda, this is spoken in Chassidus. As follows. I've mentioned this many times, something which Rabbi Zalman Posner, Alav Hashalom, Shliach of the Fidiker Rebbe and the Rebbe to Tennessee, an author of wonderful books, and the first chassid to bring Chassidus to the English-speaking world, in English. Not just books, but in lectures, etc. He was really the first. So, Zalman Posner related, this was a Fabrengen before the Rebbe's Nesius, a Chol HaMoed Sukkos Fabrengen, which was, as I mentioned to you, directed to the Bnei HaYeshiva. Signs went up all over New York of a Fabrengen. This was still in the life, this was at the behest of the Frierdiker Rebbe. Rebbe would Fabreng, and Talmidim came. And from those Fabrengens, Chassidim were made. And those Fabrengens were extraordinary. They continued even after the Nesius, these Fabrengens, and they're characterized by profound Nigla Sichus, and then Nigla in the light of Chassidus. So related then as follows. In the course of one of these Fabrengens, the Rebbe said like this, I mentioned this many times, that Pischulik Kechudesh, we just had this recently also, Kel Doidi, Pischulik Kechudesh Machat. The pasuk says, "Kel Doidi Doifek Pischuli," the voice of my beloved knocks, open up to me. So the Gemara says, Chazal say, Hashem says, open for me like the opening of a needle. That's all I'm asking, and I will open your heart like the opening of the Ulam, the entrance to the Heichal, which was 20 amas high and open, and the doors there were no doors, always open. So the Rebbe said like this, Hashem is saying, all I'm asking you is one thing, like the opening of a needle. But like the needle penetrates through and through, it should be durch and durch. One inyan, that you work on yourself, and with complete devotion, that's all I'm asking. And I'll take it the rest of the way. What this means, in part, also is this nakuda, that when there's a real change that happens in some area of my life, it's going to affect every area of my life. Because real change means some selflessness, some devotion, some real commitment. And if I've opened up that channel of commitment, it could be in a small thing. We all know from experience, if you start davening, you really invest in davening, the fiyarach, and so on. It's not just the davening. Your relationships and everything there's an opening, there's a movement there. If you put aside self somewhere in your life and in any area, sincerely and consistently, it's going to have a ripple effect in every area, every other area of your life as well. Same principle. Because we are a human being, that every part of us is interrelated and interconnected, because we are a reflection of Seder Shtalshelus. So one thing affects the other. We also physically in the body. If there's an infection in one part of the body, in the negative side, everything is affected. Likewise, strengthening one part of the body strengthens every other part of it as well, by extension, because it's all interrelated. Why? Because we're a reflection of Seder Shtalshelus. So therefore, too, here the Bekiya, the splitting of the sea, Kriyas Yamsa, by Yitzias Mitzrayim, Behelem, also affected the opening up and a chidush in all of Ishtalshelus to the highest levels, even as we're speaking here in this Maimer. And that's why Kmitzeischem Meretz Misamar, and it flows, because this is, Lasid Lova is the full realization and completion of that which began by Yitzias Mitzrayim. Now we get over here now in the next ois, a beautiful beer in the interconnectedness of Seder Shtalshelus. The matter is as follows. Yeah, everybody has it? What he's explaining now is how all the Shtalshelus is interrelated. How does one level devolve into another level? It's through the process of tzimtzum. This process of concealment. So he's going to, the point at the end is, so in the concealment, which is the thread, he just is giving you a heads up of what's coming. Concealment is the tzimtzum is the dynamic, is the operative dynamic that by which Seder Shtalshelus comes into being, as he demonstrates. So therefore, if there is a shattering, as it were, of the tzimtzum on any level of Seder Shtalshelus, then that's going to affect that opening at all of its levels. Because that's what defines Seder Shtalshelus. Is this tzimtzum, the koyach hagvul. Now let's see. So he demonstrates it very, very beautifully. I'm
sorry, Rabbi, I'm sorry. I lost my internet completely. Do you mind just repeat the last 30 seconds? I'm sorry, I didn't hear anything.
Yeah, so he's saying that tzimtzum, the Seder Shtalshelus, the motor, for want of a better word, not the motor really, no, it's really the whole principle that defines and what creates Seder Shtalshelus, namely, how does one level descend and devolve from another level? That's what Shtalshelus means, this descending chain of Elikus. So it's throughout it all is this tzimtzum. Each level there's a tzimtzum, there's a contraction, and as a result of that, a lower level emerges, and so it continues. Every level is a result of a tzimtzum from a level above it from which it devolves. And therefore, since the tzimtzum is that which is creates Seder Shtalshelus, when there's a change in the tzimtzum anywhere, a chidush, a shattering, an opening of the tzimtzum, so that will cause an opening on all levels, because that's the singular koyach, the singular divine force that defines and produces Seder Shtalshelus, as he now is going to demonstrate. It's all to say that, therefore, when there was the opening of the sea by Kriyas Yamsov, notwithstanding that it's a relatively low level, Malchus, as he said, and we'll revisit, nonetheless, it causes a Bekiya, the highest levels, even in Bina. And therefore, an opening there and a revelation on a subtle level, a chidush, a revelation on a subtle level, are the very highest levels, which normally would not be revealed because of the tzimtzum now opens. Again, because it's all an integrated system. And now he's saying more than that, not just an integrated system, but there's one operative principle and force that's common, and that is the cause of the entire system, and that is this tzimtzum. So if it's affected on any level, in a radical, real way, it'll affect all levels. Which now goes to demonstrate the union of the tzimtzum and how the tzimtzum is the operative divine force responsible for ishtalshelus. And we'll understand this by looking at the way we work. Because again, we are a reflection of Seder ishtalshelus. Man is made in the image of Hashem. So let's see. Understand this from the way it works within our own souls. Beginning, what's the deepest driving force of the human being? And that's the will. That in order, even for the will to emerge, that comes as a result of a tzimtzum of the actual body of the soul, the spiritual etzem hanefesh. As he goes on to say, notwithstanding its tremendous revelation, person's will is a tremendous revelation of who the person is, but it's still not him in essence, it's his will. There's still two separate things, and it comes as a result of a tzimtzum. The essence of the nefesh has to be concealed, and only that way can a particular rotzen, or even a general rotzen, emerge. As he demonstrates, even though rotzen is very powerful, a very deep expression of the self, it's not that the rotzen, that is the person. To define a human being as an entity that wills, no. Human being is an entity that expresses will, but it's not defined by will alone, as powerful as that is. It's not true to say that there's nothing higher. The fact is, we see that there are changes in the will. As powerful as it is, sometimes he wants this, and sometimes he wants the very opposite. A very opposite experience, a very opposite possession. And even if we go very deep, not just external wills, I want something. But we're talking about the rotzen atzmi and the rotzen tivi, the natural will. There is also changes. Now, what's example of that? Natural instinctive. In other words, there's wills that you have because you learned about something that's desirable, so you want it. If you didn't know about it, you wouldn't want the will. That's not the rotzen atzmi or rotzen tivi. It's kind of an acquired will. It's an acquired will because you became aware of such a nice thing, so you want it. You became aware of a terrible thing, you want to stay away from it. But then there's instinctual wills, like a love of a child, of a father to a child. Now that's instinctual and natural because, of course, the child is an extension of the father. And yet, the will is not in a constant state. You're always going to be the child's father. That doesn't change. But your desire and will. Sometimes he will repress his will and his love so that it's not experienced. Like Avram Avinu, it's an unusual and very deep phenomena, but it's possible. Like Avram, like we say every morning, that Avram conquered his natural compassion for his only child. Last is to do your will. So he asked Hashem likewise to what's what I use, kovash, to repress his anger when that would be the natural response and deal with us kindly. Huh?
You wanted the word, it was conquer.
Yeah, it means conquer, but here it means repress. It's not a. It actually really means to repress, because when you conquer, that's what you're doing. You're kovish, you repress it. Conquer, repress. Okay, so we see from here that the rotzen is not the etzem hanefesh, the fact that there are changes. On the other hand, how do you do what's known? We learned about this in the previous Maimarim. We learned about it in the Purim Maimer. On the other hand, is to be appreciated that the rotzen is not like the other faculties, which are an entity unto themselves. As we learned earlier, remember, seichel. you learn something or even a feeling, not even, and also a feeling. So if you learn something, you experienced a feeling, right? Even if right now you're not learning that, you don't have those feelings, they still remain as a conscious memory in your entity, in your being. The knowledge is there to be accessed whenever you want. And the feelings also, you look back and, you can remember and to some degree even relive. You could even relive the emotional experience that you had then. This is a big, the Fidik Rebbe, was kochtach on this very much, the koach of zikaron, of memory, that through memory, one can place oneself in a former situation and experience those emotions. But the Rosh is not the same way. If you don't want something anymore, you can't summon it. You can't re-experience it. I wanted it, no, I don't want it, it's gone. Because that's much more, relatively speaking, more essential to the self. It doesn't have a life of its own. It's all relatively speaking. Seichel and Midas don't have a life of its own either. Ultimately, they're expressions of the Etzem HaNefesh. But they do have a relative life of their own. There's the world of intellect and the world of emotion. And even if you're not engaged in it right now, if you once did, they are present as part of you. But you can't summon a Ratzon again. As he says, Ratzon is the expression of what I want, of the I. It isn't the I, but it's the expression of the I. It's very close, but it's not the I. If I no longer want this thing, there's nothing. There's no connection to it. You can't get me to be emotionally moved about it because I once wanted it. I don't want it anymore. But if I had a feeling once upon a time, had this feeling of love and what have you, I can think about those times and re-experience it to some degree. Because Ratzon is not has no independence. It's the nefesh's desire. But still, now the other side, as we began, it still doesn't mean that the Ratzon is the nefesh itself. As we concluding, the will as close as is bound up with the very I of the person. I want is I want, but there's also I understand and I feel. So I understand and I feel is already a much further expression of the self, a much more defined expression. But the Ratzon is not nearly as defined and not as bound, doesn't have the same boundaries of intellect and emotion, but still it's not the Etzem. So the tzimtzum, that's what we say. For the highest level of the nefesh to emerge, it's tzimtzum. All to say, as he goes on to say now, that this tzimtzum continues to operate on every descending level, and if there's a change, a revolution in the tzimtzum somewhere, it's going to have a ripple effect all the way up, as he continues to explain. So what is it? What happens is that the lowest level of the nefesh contracts and is invested in the Ratzon. So this is tzimtzum. Now this requires explanation. What does it mean by the lowest level of the nefesh? The nefesh is an atzmi, but it's not. This is all, it is an atzmi, but there's the oir, which is kolul be'etzem. There's all kinds of levels of manifestation of oir, of giloi, relative, that exist in the world of the etzem, as we learn at length elsewhere. That's why he says the lowest level of the nefesh. But the point that we're saying now is quite simply one nakuda, that every devolving level, every level of expression happens through tzimtzum. And he continues the description. Likewise, to go from Ratzon to intellect is also a tzimtzum. How do we see this on Yaroyim? It's not just, okay, I want to learn, now I get to learn. No, there's a tzimtzum process. How do we see this? The Ratzon is not fully manifest there. It's got to be eclipsed. There's got to be a tzimtzum in order for the world of intellect, or the faculties of intellect to kick in. When the rotzen is in its full expression, then the intellect, there's no room for the intellect. It completely overwhelms the intellect. On a simple level, but a person really wants to learn. But if he's gonna, remain in that world, I really want, he's not gonna learn. That's got to recede completely, this powerful desire. And then the process of learning, which is very methodical and so on, that process and a very finite, it is the boundaries of seichel, of logic, of rationale, can start to emerge. On the other hand, you need the ratzon. If the will to learn isn't there, he won't understand. The person doesn't have a desire to learn something. You can have the intellectual capacity, but he's not interested. It just doesn't go in. It's a person should always learn it in that place, that subject, also means the place, literally yeshiva, where his heart desires. Because if the will isn't there, then the seichel is not going to fire. So you need the will, but it's got to be misamtzim then for the seichel to work. So yes, the seichel will emerge as a result of one's desire to learn, but at the same time, the ratzon has to recede, and now let's get down to the business of learning. If a person wants to learn, and he's learning a subject and a place and with a teacher that he wants to, then he'll be more successful in his learning. So what's the net result? Yes, ratzon and no ratzon. Yes, but with tzimtzum. When we say move and shefer and v'hamshachim ha'ratzon, the seichel, well, gamken, the tzimtzum, it's understood that true, what seichel emerges and comes from ratzon, as does everything below that, but it's through the tzimtzum. Now going further, we'll do one little. As we're going down the ladder here, the ladder of within the nefesh, a reflection of ishtalshalos. So likewise, the world of seichel and midas are two opposite worlds. Mehusim, like relative essence, not essence, don't confuse us with the word essence, but mehusim means substance. They're substantially two different worlds. Intellect is cold and menucha serene and settled. V'amidas will be spireless and emotions are about excitement and movement. Intellect is dispassionate and emotions are passionate. So they're two different worlds. So in order for the intellect to move the heart, you can't remain in the world of intellect. The heart will never stir. Why would you love something and be in awe? Because you understand, that's true. But after the whole process of meditation and appreciation in Chachma, Bina, and then in Das are expressed, then has to be the eclipse of the Seichel, and now the world of emotion can emerge. To remain in the world of intellect, there'll be no heart or emotional response. So here too, a tzimtzum is required. Going further down the scale, we're going now from emotion to the world of speech. Thought and speech are the garments of seichel and midas. And in more detail, speech is the garment of midas. As explained at length, that dibur is the true garment. That's why a person's called a medaber. Dibur is the true means of communication, of expression. We're not called a thinker, we're called a medaber. At any rate, so if a person's experienced the emotions in their full intensity, can't speak. As in a yochel dabra klal, he can't even talk. He's overcome with love or awe. He's speechless. He can't speak an orderly speech. You can get a few words out, but they won't even make any sense to the listener. And moreover, not just dibur, can't even think in an orderly way. So therefore, in order for what? For the emotions to be expressed in words, to say I love you, or to describe it once, or in respect of something, the midas have to be repressed. There's got to be the tzimtzum. There too, there's got to be tzimtzum. So having described now the entire process, the human process, from ratzon all the way down to dibur, and it's all, every level happens because one level produces the lower level. That's true, but it can only produce it when it recedes to the background, allowing the tzimtzum, allowing for the next level to emerge. Likewise, l'mayla. They say that the whole emergence of Seder Ishtalshalos, it's all through tzimtzum. One level is the cause of the other, but only through the process of tzimtzum. And in general, as is brought down in Chassidus, there are three really big, drastic concealments. A parasa means a veil. To go from kesser, which the parallel is will, to chokhmah, that's a radical concealment relative to the other tzimtzumim in the from the various midas. There's also chesed, the gevura, it's tzimtzum throughout, but the big ones are from rotzim to chokhmah. Shuyinyan hakrum shalamayach, that's the physical manifestation that in the body, never mind the nefesh. That is the krum, which means a
membrane.
Yeah, a membrane that surrounds the physical brain. And then there's the parasish ben ambidis, and there's another big tzimtzum from the world of intellect to the world of emotion, which physically in the body, shumeitzet agora, that's the throat, the neck which separates the head from the heart. Right? The head doesn't sit on the body. There's this bridge, the narrow bridge. And then there's another big tzimtzum, and that's the parsa ben zol malchus, the division, the veil between the emotions and malchus, which is behavior, and that is the chest, literally, which and then from there, there's the arms and the feet and so on. From there, he produces action. Separate, we can see that they're separate parts of the body, as it were, whereas all of the other parts are much more integrated and connected more fluidly, more easily. These are different components that there is a break, as it were, physically, and therefore beruchnius between one level and the other, because they are much more radical tzimtzumim. So the conclusion of this was simply to say, therefore, as it continues, Beis Hashem will continue tomorrow, that when there's the union of the opening of the tzimtzum, what happened by Kriyas Yamsuf, this radical change from the natural order of events. And that opens up, so that's a chain reaction that causes an opening in the entire Koyach HaTzimtzum. The entire Shtalshalos is rattled, as it were, by this change that can happen anywhere if it happens in a radical way. So once the Tzimtzum is stirred, changed, opened, reversed, on one level, it causes that ripple effect everywhere because the whole system is integrated. It's all one kavana and one nakuda. Like we said in Avodah, one change, one opening in one area of my life is going to affect a transformation, a subtle transformation at least, everywhere. Because if it's emes, then it's not to be contained there, it will be expressed everywhere. And the greatest emes is that the tzimtzum is only there in order to elicit even a greater revelation.